Hey everybody, it's the Blackboard tour video for History 112 summer semester online course. So here's our Blackboard shell. Hooray! So when you come in, you'll land on the announcements page. There's some art for you. This is the Haitian Revolution, which you'll learn more about later. So the announcements, this will be kept pretty up to date. So as you can see, there's the welcome announcement that you got on the first day of class. So let's see, after the announcements page, you've got the syllabus page. The syllabus is located here. However, if you go to the Welcome to History 112 tab, it's also located in here along with the syllabus tour video, which hopefully you've watched, and the welcome video, which was in that first announcement. Okay, so we've got some important documents here. We've already gone over the syllabus. Let's take a look at the History 112 reading breakdown. This is a nifty little document that you will want to keep handy. It has all of the due dates for assignments. It's got all of the reading assignments for each week and just the general topics. If we make any changes to this, you will get noted, or you'll get informed rather, and it will almost always be to push things back farther, never to move things up. I would never make something due earlier. So, as you can see, for week 1, the first week of classes, we only have 2 weekdays, so it's sort of shortened. You'll want to watch all these videos. Then you'll want to do the Introduce Yourself discussion board. That's due by Sunday. Then as we get to week 2, Panorama, that's our textbook. You read chapters 15 and 16 of that. Worlds Together, Worlds Apart, abbreviated WTWA. That is your document reader. You will read some documents in there. Lots of cool, interesting stuff. And you have a discussion board on those topics that is due by 11:59 p.m. on Friday. Your first exam will be in week 2. I know that that's early, but again, lots of stuff to move through. That will be due Sunday, May 26th. So the discussion board will be due Friday. The exam will be due Sunday. Okay, and then as we move forward, week 3 is you got your paper due. So you've got 2 chapters in Panorama. You've got a fewer documents in Worlds Together, Worlds Apart. You've got a discussion board that'll be due Friday the 31st. It'll be shorter than the regular discussion board because you have a paper due that same week. That'll be on Sunday, June 2nd. Week 4, you've got 2 discussion boards covering different topics that are due by Friday of that week, but no tests, no papers that week. You've got only 1 chapter in Panorama and a few documents there. So there's also a short video about Peter the Great on Blackboard. So trying to have some balance. I know we have to cover a lot, and so there's a lot of reading and a lot of work to do each week, but I'm trying to make it so that hopefully you're not too overwhelmed, even though we are moving at a double pace. And things just continue to go along. Week 6, you'll have exam 2. You've got only 1 chapter that week. You've got 2 documents. You've got a shorter discussion board, and then you've got an exam. Week 7, a discussion board covering both the chapters you're reading, 23 and 24, and a few documents there. So trying to, again, have that balance for you. So this is where you'll want to look for what we are reading, what is due, more specifically due dates, all of that kind of stuff. So this is where you'll want to look for that in this reading breakdown document. Next, the History 112 discussion board FAQ, which if you're not familiar, FAQ stands for Frequently Asked Questions. So these are things you're going to want to ask yourself before you submit your discussion board. They are listed in order of importance. So what counts the most as far as points is first. So of course, after you've read this, let me know if you have any questions. It's the first one is, did your post answer each question? Does it do so comprehensively? When answering the questions, do you use the proper sources to back up your argument? All that kind of stuff. Did you use textbook, lecture, and primary sources? Now, we don't really have a lot of lecture in this class. There might be an additional video, like in week 4, you have a Peter the Great video that I just mentioned that you would want to reference. That's the closest thing to a lecture video that you'll have in this class. So a little bit different than some of my other classes. 3, did you set your sources? Did you do so correctly? You should be able to, anybody who's reading this should know exactly where your evidence comes from by viewing your citations. Are you working on your post in a way that is well organized? Is your post well organized, right? So you have multiple questions. Does each discussion question have a designated paragraph? It's not one big blob, right? This needs to be well organized, or I won't know what you're trying to talk about. It'll get messy. It'll get confusing. So again, please make sure that your post is organized. Did you proofread? Super important. Sometimes reading things out loud, like if I'm sending an email, for example, I will always read it out loud to myself before I send it to make sure that I'm proofreading it thoroughly and making sure I catch any issues. You should do the same with your work. Did you comment on 2 other students' posts? You need to add to the conversation with your comments. It can't just be like, oh, good job. Oh, I agree. Oh, I disagree. That's great. But you also need to add to the conversation, okay? Because these comments do take the place of an in-class discussion. So that's your discussion board FAQ. Again, look through that. Look at the discussion board assignment for week 2. That's the first actual discussion board that asks you questions about course content. And if you have any questions, please let me know. After discussion board FAQ, we have a primary document checklist. Some of you may never have read primary documents before. Again, primary documents are those documents written by people who lived during that time. Okay. So these are just some questions you can ask yourself when you are reading the documents. What type of document is it? Why does it exist? Is it a letter? Is it a diary entry? Is it a testimony? So if once you know what it is, that'll give you some ideas about why it was written that way, who wrote it, what's left out of the document. For example, if you read a document about farming techniques in France in the 1600s, you might learn also some things about, what equipment was available. So it tells you about where the technology was at the time. Social hierarchy, if someone's farming for a lord, it'll tell you something about class structure in France during that period. So there's also, some stuff that goes to the next question. In addition to the main subject, what other kinds of information can be obtained from the document? Okay, so if you're reading about, French farming in the 1600s, again, you might not see children, but you might get that other stuff that isn't the main subject of the document. How do the subjects of the document relate to what we know about broader society? Also a good question. Again, when we're looking at global perspectives, that's a good thing to think about. What was the meaning of the document in its own time? What is the meaning to the reader today? Again, we're going to be talking about civil rights issues, things like that, struggles for equality and access in society. These are issues that are still talked about and discussed, so this might have relevance to us today. And what does the document tell you about change in society, right? So how have things changed since, maybe a previous time we studied? How have things changed now since what we're looking at for that particular week? So just a few things to think about when you are looking at those primary documents. I've got additional handouts. Again, this was mentioned in the syllabus video. Is this plagiarism? Active and passive voice. When you write your papers, you'll want to use active voice much more so than passive voice. This handout has examples of those different types of voices. I can give you an example right now. Let's see. Society was damaged by the war. There's a passive voice sentence. You've got that was in there. Active voice would be war damaged the society or war damaged society. That's an active voice. You see how it gives war agency. It's much more active, stronger sentence. So you want to use more active voice when you write papers. Okay, and that's the welcome tab, so be sure to review all of this, okay? Assignments. This is another really good place you want to hang out. It's got all the weeks laid out. I'm a very organized person, so I like to have everything set up in a way that is easy for folks to follow and goes along with, kind of the calendar layout. So, for week 1, we've got make sure you view all the things under the welcome tab that we just talked about and let me know if you have any questions. Then we've got the introduce yourself discussion board. So you'll want to do that, and then you want to comment on at least 2 other students' posts for full credit. Okay, and this is an easy participation grade. So, you should definitely do it. Then if we go back, let's just explore week 2 real quick. This is your first full week. If you haven't already done so, by the time week 2 starts, you need to do that enrollment verification quiz. Remember, that keeps you in the class. That is due by May 22nd. Okay, and this will tell you in here kind of what's going on that week. Got a discussion board and your first exam. There's your discussion board going over questions from chapter 15 and chapter 16. So 15's here, 16's here. You've got a video on the Columbia Exchange, and then you've got your first exam. Okay. So see, everything's pretty well organized. Your first paper is due in week 3. You've got a shorter discussion board. Okay. Another video on the Atlantic slave trade, and then you've got this paper here, and it's got a couple of extra readings that go along with the paper assignment, okay? So again, everything's pretty cleanly laid out. Of course, if you have any questions or if you're confused, please let me know, but you can see all the dates are here. All right, let's take a look at the My Instructor tab. There's my email address. There's a picture of me. This was taken at a wedding before I had my kids, so you can see I look rested and youthful. Very excited to teach this class. My BA and MA are both from NC State. I love talking about history, obviously. I like baking. I like spending time with my family most of the time. They are great. So I also like to go to conventions. You know, I'm a big geek, so there's that too. So that's me. And the discussion board tab, you can go here, but again, the discussion boards are all laid out in those specific weeks. So, and you see they're not even in order, week 4, week 2, they're in alphabetical order, so you'll want to, maybe just want to stick with the assignment tab. Okay. But they're all in there. Okay. So the last things I will show you, just to make sure you're aware of what's available to you, is the Student Academic and Technical Resources tab up at the top. Here's the information for JOLT if you have a concern or issue while you're taking and submitting a test, or a discussion board, or a paper, you know, something. Blackboard eats it, or freaks out, or you get kicked out of the test before you're done and before the time limit. Contact JOLT and copy me. Okay, and we can figure it out. The Academic Skills Center is in the library on campus. It's got really great resources. You could do online tutoring. You could do in-person tutoring. You can do all kinds of cool stuff. So, you know, that's a resource available to you as well. The Campus Safety tab lets you know what to do in the event of an emergency. So please check that out if you haven't already. As you can see, I have a lot of classes. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the Blackboard tour. Of course, if you have any questions about that, let me know. But please be sure to go to the Welcome to History 112 tab, complete the videos, like view the videos that are in there, including this one. So, you know, hopefully you are viewing the videos because I'm talking about them right now. Read these important documents, ask me any questions that you may have, cruise on over to the Assignments tab, and then under week 1, do that introduction discussion board by Sunday, okay? And take the enrollment verification quiz, which I believe, I'm going to move this up. So that's right there. So be sure you do that by May 22nd, okay? All right.